All right, let's talk about a sound. A sound that started in the deep south of America and ended up, well, conquering the entire world. It was forged in some of the hardest times imaginable, and it became the bedrock for rock and roll, for R&B, for so much of what we listen to today. This is the story of the blues.
But before we get into any of the chords, or the history, or the legends, we have to start right here, with the feeling. This quote is from somebody trying and kind of failing to explain the power of one of the first great blues singers, Ma Rainey. See, it wasn't just about the notes she was singing, it was about how she catch hold of us. It grabs you. The blues is a feeling, first and foremost. Everything else comes after that.
Okay, so the blues is more than just a feeling. It has a structure, a form. So what is it, technically speaking? In this first part, we're going to break down the actual musical DNA of a blues song. What really makes it tick. Now, if you've ever picked up a guitar and tried to learn a blues song, you have definitely run into this, the 12-bar blues. It's the classic formula, right? The chassis that thousands and thousands of songs have been built on. It's usually just 3 simple chords stretched out over 12 measures, and it often has this really cool lyrical pattern. You sing a line, you sing that same line again, and then you sing a third line that kind of answers it. It is just a beautifully simple and incredibly powerful structure. But, and this is so important to remember, the earliest blues, that raw back porch folk blues, it didn't always follow the rules. Not at all. A song might have 11 bars, maybe 13 and a half. The lyrics felt more like a stream of consciousness, just capturing whatever mood or memory was in the air. The feeling shaped the song, not the other way around. So where did that feeling come from? I mean, to really truly understand the blues, you have to understand the world that it was born into. So let's go back in time, to the American South right after the Civil War.
This timeline here, it shows you the pressure cooker that created the blues. You have the massive hope of the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, but then that promise of Reconstruction just falls apart by 1877. That leads directly to the rise of segregation laws in the 1890s, and it's right there in that mix of incredible hope and crushing disappointment that the blues is born. It's a sound that could have only come from this uniquely American experience.
And this new sound didn't just appear out of thin air. You can see its DNA right here. You've got these powerful African musical traditions, vocal shakes, vibrato, that survive the horrors of the Middle Passage. You've got the call and response of work songs from the fields, the lonely personal cries we call field hollers, and of course, the incredible harmonies of spirituals sung in church. All of these different streams flow together to create this huge river we now call the blues. For the first few decades of its life, the blues was like a ghost. A sound you'd hear in a backwoods juke joint or on a porch, but it was never captured. And then, in the 1920s, recording technology shows up, and all of a sudden, the blues has a voice. Or, more accurately, it had 2 very, very different kinds of voices.
And this slide just lays out that contrast perfectly. On one side, you have the classic blues queens, like Ma Rainey and Bessie Smith. These were professionals, performing in theaters backed by slick jazz bands. They were stars. And on the other side, you have the folk bluesmen like Blind Lemon Jefferson. These guys were wanderers, solo artists with just a guitar, telling these raw, unfiltered stories about life in the rural South.
And you gotta understand, those classic blues queens were superstars. Bessie Smith, they called her the Empress of the Blues, and she was a total phenomenon. Her records sold hundreds of thousands of copies. She was as big a star as anyone in the 1920s, and she brought this powerful new music to a massive audience. And then you have the other side of that coin, perfectly captured by the myth of Robert Johnson. The story goes he was a pretty terrible guitar player who vanished for a while, went down to a crossroads, and traded his soul to the devil for his unbelievable talent. Now, it's just a legend, of course, but that story tells you everything you need to know about the mysterious, haunting power of the Delta blues he played. The next chapter in this story isn't just about the music changing, it's about geography. During the Great Migration, millions of African Americans moved from the rural South to cities in the North. They brought their lives, their hopes, and they brought the blues with them. And in one city in particular, that music was about to be transformed forever. This slide says it all, really. From the cotton fields of the Mississippi Delta all the way to the loud, crowded industrial streets of Chicago, that journey right there, it set the stage for the next massive evolution of American music.
And among the thousands and thousands of people making that trip was a tractor driver and farm worker from a Mississippi plantation. His name was McKinley Morganfeld, and he brought his acoustic Delta blues right along with him. But he quickly realized that in the noisy, rowdy clubs on Chicago's South Side, his acoustic guitar just wasn't going to cut it. He needed something more. So he plugged it into an amplifier, took the stage name Muddy Waters, and he didn't just get louder. He invented a whole new sound. He became the undisputed father of Chicago blues. So what was the recipe for this brand new sound? Well, it's actually pretty simple. Step 1, you take that country guitar and you electrify it. Step 2, you add a harmonica, but you plug that in too, so it wails and screams. Step 3, you put the whole thing on top of a heavy, driving rhythm section, bass and drums. And the final, most important ingredient, step 4, you turn everything up loud. This was not front porch music anymore. This was the sound of the city. That loud, powerful electric sound coming out of Chicago's clubs, it was about to find a very unlikely new audience, thousands of miles away, and it would spark a musical revolution that would change pop culture forever. So picture this, it's the early 1960s, and you've got these kids in England digging through bins of imported records from America, and they are completely mesmerized by the raw power and the honesty of guys like Muddy Waters and Howlin. They started learning the songs, trying to copy the guitar licks, just trying to capture a little bit of that same incredible energy. One of those kids was a guitar player named Keith Richards. He and his friend, a singer named Mick Jagger, really bonded over their shared love for this music. They decided they should start a band, and when they needed a name, they looked no further than the title of a 1950s song by their hero, Muddy Waters. And believe me, they were not alone. As you can see here, the family tree of rock and roll has its roots deep, deep in the blues. The Rolling Stones, Cream, Jimi Hendrix, the biggest, most foundational acts of that whole era were at their heart blues bands. They just took the language of Muddy Waters and supercharged it for a new generation. They were translating the blues into rock and roll. So we followed the blues from a field in Mississippi to a club in Chicago, across the ocean to London, and all the way back again. But what's its lasting impact? Why does this music, which was born over a century ago, still matter so much to us today?
Well, it's because the blues isn't just one genre. It is the literal DNA for so much of the music we listen to, even now. You absolutely cannot have rock and roll without the electric blues that came out of Chicago. You can't have R&B and soul with the vocal passion and the structure of the blues. Even country music has these deep, tangled roots with early blues traditions. It's everywhere.
This one sentence really just sums up the whole incredible story we've been talking about. From a lonely voice hollering in a field in the Mississippi Delta to a massive stadium rock anthem blasting out to 50,000 people. That is the story of the blues. It's the sound of pain, yeah, but also of perseverance. It's the sound of human resilience turned into music. And that leaves us with one last question to think about. This is music that comes from a place of deep pain, from loss and incredible hardship. So why does it feel so good to listen to? Why does it connect with us so deeply and somehow manage to lift us up? That paradox, that right there, might just be the magic of the blues.